Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. Let me introduce myself. My name is Widinur Aulia, and in this opportunity, I would like to present material about theories of learning. The purpose of my presentation is to provide part of the material contained in the ESP. Let's start to the material. For the first, I will explain to you about what theories of learning. Language can only enter the period it should be as a reflection of human thought process. Learning language is conditioned by opening minds, assisting and storing information. In other words, the key to language learning and teaching is understanding grammar and thought process. The developments in learning theory have had similar patterns in the definition of language, and each has had an effect on the other. By describing language, we must draw a key development in the theory of how learners can learn and relate to the needs of ESP learners and teachers. Followed a similar pattern to those in language description, and each has had some effect on the other. But if we are to see the importance of each for language teaching, it is best to consider the theories relating to language and learning separately. As with language description, we shall describe the main developments in theories of how learners learn and relate each to the needs of the ESP learner and teacher. And now we are going to the part of theories of learning. For the first is behaviorism. Behaviorism as learning as habit formation. This is the first theory of learning by Pavlov in Soviet Union and Skinner in the United States. In this theory, said that learning is the connection process of habit formation and given value by quality of the frequent action of continuous stimulus response. This theory has the large impact in the learning psychology and in language teaching. This theory provides the theoretical to support the use of audiolingual method of the 1950s and 1960s. His method is very good because it is concluding a set of guiding methodological principles which is based on the behaviorist stimulus response concept, and secondly on an assumption that second language learning should reflect and imitate the process of mother tongue language. The process on behaviorism are, for the first, never translate. The second, new language should always deal with this process, hearing, speaking, reading, and writing. The third is frequent repetition is essential to effective learning, and the last is all errors must be immediately corrected. The basic exercise technique of a behaviorist methodology is pattern practice, particularly in the form of language laboratory drills. Now we are going to the topic of mentalism, that thinking as a rule-governed activity. Learning is not just a form of habit but a rule of learning, the process by which individual experiences are used with thought to formulate provisional hypotheses or conjectures. Mentalism sees children as humans who have their own creativity. In the learning language, having thinking as a rule-governed activity was also the step in learning, which learning not only consists of forming habit, but also acquiring rules where the process in which the experience of somebody is being used by the mind to formulate hypotheses. The hypothesis will be tested and modified by subsequent experience. The mind that is being used not only responds to a stimulus, but in here, the individual stimulus is used in order to find the underlying pattern or system in learning language. The knowledge then being used of the system in a situation to predict what is going to happen, what is an appropriate response for it. Now we're going to the topic cognitive code that learners thinking beings. The behaviorist theory of learning portrayed the learner as a passive receiver of information. The cognitive view takes the learner to be an active processor of information. Learning, then, is a process in which the learner actively tries to make sense of data, and learning can be said to have taken place when the learner has managed to impose some sort of meaningful interpretation or pattern on the data. In cognitive code, or we can say that students will learn when they think about what they are managing. Now we are going to the topic about the affective factor that learners as emotional beings. People think, but they also have feelings. It is one of paradox of human nature that although we are all aware of our feeling and their effect on our action, we invariably seek answers to our problem in rational terms. This cognitive factor purposes the affective factor of motivation. Before learners can actively think about something, they must want to think about it. The emotional reaction to the learning experience is the essential foundation for the initiation of the cognitive process. How the learning is perceived by a learner will affect what learning, if any, will take place. Now we are going to the topic about learning and acquisition. Much debate has recently centered around the distinction made by Stephen Krasben at 1981 between learning and acquisition. Learning is seen as a conscious process, while acquisition proceeds unconsciously. Now we are going to the last topic about a model for learning. A learning model will provide a practical resource or reference for ESP teachers and course designers. With learning, the need to acquire knowledge is a necessary factor, but just as, if not more important, is the need to actually enjoy the process of proficiency. From our discussion, we can conclude that there are 6 theories of learning. For the first is behaviourism, that learning as habit formation. Second is mentalism, that thinking as rule-governed activity. Third is cognitive code, that learners thinking beings. Fourth is the affective factor, that learners as emotional beings. Fifth is learning and acquisition. And the last is a model of learning. That's enough material that I can convey. Thank you for listening. May all that I have shared be beneficial for all.